yesterday, but 9 others are still receiving care. The RCMP is investigating. A University of Calgary basketball player has died after an accident on Moyi Lake near Cranbrook. 19-year-old Andrew Milner died after his canoe capsized in frigid waters on Tuesday morning. The kinesiology student is originally from Nova Scotia. Was in his second year routine. Crews scanned the shoreline with the help of police dogs and were able to find some of his possessions before locating his body in the water. Milner won the U Sports Championship in his rookie year.
I think I might have picked up the audio sync issue. I can't be certain yet.
Port Moody City Council is reviewing the paid leave of absence for Savannah Mayor. Rob Vegermoff was charged with one count of sexual assault last month. The alleged incident took place.
So, John Horgan's trying to find a way to solve British Columbia's power costs, you know, without cutting taxes. Without butchering people's means, without taking away their labors. This guy doesn't like the poor, doesn't like the middle class. He likes his buddy system, he likes his bureaucrats. He likes the people who, he loves the bureaucrats. I mean, that's all. If he could have just a world of bureaucrats and nothing else, he would have a world of bureaucrats and nothing else. He thinks all the other lowly peasants are just a means to paying the bureaucrats. The bureaucrat is like the 21st century aristocrat with no breeding. I mean, at least, you know, aside from the English ones, you have some breeding, inbreeding. It's rather unique to the Western European crowds. But I mean, my family were Hungarian blue bloods, and they were quite mixed people, and they were possibly crass to the Western Europeans. But yeah, or Europeans period. But at least they weren't bureaucrats. I mean, come on, they really were just more like real estate people. Real estate, really, essentially they're real estate people. Inherited real estate people, but real estate people nonetheless. Rented things out and stuff like that to serfs for renters, basically. More just lowly, dirty peasants. Let's see what else is going on here on the global news.
April 2015 in Coquitlam when he was a counselor. Vegermoff has denied the accusations and is currently on a paid leave of absence. Council recently passed a motion to review his indemnity. Any decision will be announced after that upcoming meeting.
The Port Moody mayor, he was a dirty boy, apparently.
Canadian politics for months, and yesterday the band got
if he's
back
guilty,
together.
I hope he doesn't get a day out of jail, but he probably will. He'll get
for the first time since being
conditional
voted
release.
Liberal caucus. Here's Grace Key.
It's the first time for...
That's what perverts get, conditional release. I shouldn't quote mark that. It's just conditional release. They get that after maybe a short term in jail, and then they get a little slap on the wrist and say, "Don't do it again." Of course, yeah, they have to report to the people, and they can't be seen 10 miles from within a child or their common pattern victim. Actually, the pattern victim doesn't even show up in that circumstance. It's just kind of weird. You never hear that. You never hear you can't be near your pattern victim. And how do you not be within 10 miles or feet or within reach of somebody? I mean, people walk around all the time. It's impossible to control. It's kind of like being entrapped with the moment which you're outside. It's a very cruel thing, in a sense. It's a lot less cruel to do it my way and put them in jail forever and then bury them in jail in an interesting cemetery. Well, those true crime buffs would have loved it. My sister's a true crime buff. Raybould, huh?
Former Liberal cabinet ministers Jody Wilson-Raybould and Jane Philpott have spoken together publicly since they were ousted from caucus earlier this month amid the SNC-Lavalin scandal. The former Attorney General got a few laughs in her opening remarks.
So since I spoke to the leadership of British Columbia this past November, there have been a few developments.
Those Massey Tunnel thing, it's kind of reminds me of it because, like Rayball here, I'm against the Indian Act. And, like, across the, they're worried about replacing it because they want to talk to First Nations about things like, that might be important to them, like fishing. Now, their fish supply might be important to them, but, you know, that's kind of condescending colonial mentality, because really they could be interested in how jobs will be available near them, and there could be all sorts of modern day stuff more than fishing. And they treat them like they're just gonna, their only concern is tossing a spear and fish. That's all, and doing all the basic many moons ago type things. I mean, really. I mean, they treat them like a tourist stereotype. It's terrible. It's horrible.
Things have changed a bit. Perhaps you are aware of them.
The two delivered keynote speeches at the First Nations Justice Conference in Richmond. At one point, Wilson Raybould spoke about Indigenous rights in context to testimony she gave before the House of Commons Justice Committee.
I observed that, quote, "The history of Crown Indigenous relations in this country includes a history of the rule of law not being respected. And I have seen the negative impacts."
Judy, are you saying the history of the Crown, the British Crown, the Canadian Crown, was unfair to the Native people? No. Missing, you're going to tell me they believe their position is based on divine right. Oh my God. Really, I mean, this ain't new. We're not surprised. The rule of law never really affected them because they were considered well, subjects of subjects on a little territory they called a reservation. It's the whole point of the problem of the Indian Act. It's made slaves and subjugation of a specific people. It's terrible. It's horrible. It's racist. It's disgusting.
For freedom, equality, and a just society this can have firsthand.
The former Indigenous Services Minister described the political shockwaves that hit Ottawa amid the scandal and the serious clash of cultures.
And some have criticized me and Jody.
There was a clash of cultures with the Liberals. See, Liberals are used to having no credibility at all. And then this little bit of credibility called Julie Wilson-Raybould, this just showed up and started talking. And that sort of, and this little bit of integrity that they also didn't have culturally was a huge problem as a result. They couldn't have that.
As being naive, as not understanding how things are done. Those critics failed to realize that the way things have always been done may not meet the standard of what Canadians expect
Watching the traditional
from political
television
leaders.
thing.
The First Nations Justice Council invited the two to speak at the forum. The council chair saying they've demonstrated great leadership in Ottawa.
They both represent what, in our view, is the right approach to embracing principle with clarity, without any hesitation.
Neither have indicated whether they'll...
Raybould looks almost embarrassed in that traditional garb over there. Yeah, well, you know, the problem is, you know, if natives really want to make something, they should look to someone like Russell Means, who sought out libertarianism, and rather than the shackles of these other philosophies that are basically deep-rooted in authoritarianism, and therefore will always try to subjugate people they think are lesser than them, which is usually everybody, but, you know, there's a sliding scale, of course. There's who they can get away with the most and who they can get away with the least. And through liberty, we can pretty much educate people better. Through liberty, we can make sure people have individual property rights, including the native person. And we can see that they have independence too. It's self-determination. That's none of these stupid treaty ideas or these stupid land claim stuff. That stuff is all a bunch of treaty ideas of the same type of people who break treaties, which is ridiculous. Ridiculous.
Seek re-election or what their political futures hold. Race Key Global News.
Well, after another chaotic long weekend, BC Ferries is considering getting rid of reservation fees. The changes are being pitched to help deal with growing congestion and driver frustration. The changes have been in the works for a while. The pressure is mounting after a busy Easter long weekend. Part of the new system is expected to be some form of variable pricing, which could mean no reservation fees. Up to 70% of vehicle traffic on major routes is booked by reservations. A legendary Vancouver baseball team has been honored.
Kind of weird that they moved into reservations after. Anyway, the bus routes around here have been over flooded, of course, because they're tourists now. I think they're tourists around now. So it's popping up, so it's natural. But the routes on 7 and 4 in Vancouver, that's been quite busy for some time now. That's been overloaded for quite some time. It's been very difficult for some time mostly because they don't go all the way all night and day. It's just terrible. It's terrible, and they want to really put up a subway instead, a very expensive subway, rather than fix the problem with the routes. Ridiculous. And on the ferry thing, oh my God, talk about an endless problem. Reservation fees, good Lord, because the government's not taxing it enough, apparently. If they tax people less, revenues increase, maybe they have less problems.
With a Canada Post stamp.
3, 2, 1.
The last surviving members of the Vancouver Asahi, 93-year-old Kate Kameninshi, was on hand for the ceremony at the Nikkei National Museum and Cultural Center in Burnaby. The team was formed in 1914 and won numerous senior league championships before being forced to disband shortly after Canada declared war on Japan in 1941. The stamp features 11 players from that 1940 team.
My past team.
And when they say that Japanese baseball team in Vancouver had to disband, what they mean is they had to go to a special camp.
Teammates, coaches, and managers are all looking down, smiling, happy, and humbled by the recognition that Canada Post has given them. We all appreciate your work. Thank you.
There's people still alive at this point.
Fisheries officers are investigating after another huge dump of Dungeness crab was discovered. Last Wednesday, some 200 crab were found off the side of Skeena Crossing Road about 20 kilometers west of Hazelton. The crab were heavily decayed and appeared to have been there for some time. This is the second dump site found in the area this month, and DFO officers believe they are connected. If you have any information, you're asked to contact the
roving gang of seagulls
anti-poaching line at 1-800-465-4336. Remarkable sightings this week of transient killer whales on the hunt at Vancouver Harbour. Scientists with the Vancouver Aquarium capturing the moment on Tuesday as the group of bigs, as the whales are also known as, swam into the harbour to hunt for seals. These killer whales feed on marine mammals, including seals, sea lions, and other cetaceans like dolphins. The group of 5 included a matriarch and her 4 offspring. A week before, a different group of big whales were spotted, and
Killer whales
with 3
eat dolphins? That's the first I've
Although
heard that.
listed as a threatened species at risk, BC's population is recovering, with more than 300 believed to be in the wild. Coming up, the new medical innovations that could help the growing number of Canadians living with vision loss. Plus,
I am announcing my candidacy for President of the United States.
Joe Biden jumps into the running for the White House. Donald Trump's response as a former vice president.
Oh my God, that's great. Creepy Joe. If Democrats get their wish, we can end up having a 2 vice president match between Pence and Joe Biden. Yes, imagine that. You ever wonder why the Democrats are so happy to have President Pence come involved? It's like they think, well, Trump is too homophobic. Well, no, actually, he's supportive of gays and stuff. He's not against them and stuff like that. But Pence will be a whole other story, man. I mean, he might not be on the legislative area about that. Might be more of a states' rights guy. But it would be a risky thing for them. You know, besides, it's the opinion they don't like. They don't care what you do. It's the opinion. Oh, it's the opinion. The same mentality as the banning of stuff and all that other crap.
Takes aim at him during his campaign launch.
Do I have a daughter? Yeah, she's called Charlotte.
Plus, Prince William is in New Zealand visiting
all that
survivors
useless
of the
sack of
Christchurch
shit.
mosque attack. We'll have those stories and much more when we come back.
Monarchy is nothing but a useless piece of crap. Waste of money. You know, it costs a lot of people a lot of money in a lot of ways against their will. And they are fucking useless and tyrannical. They're either tyrannical or useless. I mean, they give you 2 stories. So sometimes they're sometimes they get outed as being tyrannical. The Queen giving Mulroney some extra senators. And some say she's just just a figurehead, and that's just a waste of money too. Figurehead. The United States Constitution is a figurehead more. It's a representation of the country. It's also a law, the top law, that gets violated too much. But it's not a useless sack of shit on a throne. It does something. And it represents as well. You know, and it's just a parchment. So people more useless than a parchment shouldn't be out there living it up. It's a damn squib. We need more to drink. Pardon me. Pardon me, Governor. Yeah. I believe we still have a death penalty out there. Do the people actually still trust the government to initiate a active murder, basically? State-sanctioned killing. Amazing, the carte blanche people give government, even the same people who say we can't trust them. It's 1984, blah blah blah. But we need them to kill people. Oh, brother.
Official tossing his hat into the ring of Democrats running for president. Biden
The
is
Super Delegate Choice Awards. Come on, Joe Biden.
Former Vice President Joe
As we all
Biden
know,
says he wants to win the
the
presidency
Super
on
Delegates
his
make the
own.
choice, and they will probably make the choice for Joe.
And he doesn't want to, we should
Tulsi Gabbard would be the most reasonable of them. Probably has no chance at all.
Video that largely focused on the race riots in Charlottesville. A source close to Biden tells CBS News
admittedly, I'm
that was
fond of the
when he
idea of
decided to
putting
run.
executive branches, well, putting women in the executive branch. Her current position's fine, but
Biden's video appeared more like a general election campaign rather than a
I
race
finally
for the
think she's more
primary.
useful
Went
in
after President
the
Trump,
Senate than
not
she would be in the
another
presidency.
If we give Donald Trump 8 years in the White
Veto
House,
power, it's not like
he will
she can
forever
vote,
and
and she can
fundamentally
initiate,
alter
request
the character of
legislation
this
and stuff. She
nation.
can end
Who we
wars,
are, and I cannot
war
stand
funding.
by and watch that happen.
She
President
fights
Trump
in a
punched back on Twitter, calling him
President can't
Sleepy
end war
Joe,
funding.
and warned the vice president not to overlook his primary
He cannot
campaign,
send the
saying, "It will be
soldiers to
nasty.
war.
We'll be dealing with
They'll
people
have
who
different
truly have
motives."
some very sick and demented ideas. But if you make it, I will see you at the starting gate." Biden joins one of the largest and most diverse field of primary candidates ever assembled. Is Joe Biden in touch with the modern Democratic Party?
When you've got such a long history in office, there are going to be all sorts of things that come up that are potentially problematic and again, sort of outdated or outmoded in a modern Democratic Party.
At 76, Biden is 1 year younger
Biden's
than
probably in touch with the
77-year-old
super
Bernie
delegates.
Sanders. South Bend, Indiana Mayor Pete Buttigieg is the youngest Democratic candidate at 37. Nicole Killian, CBS News, the White House.
Well, young youth, there's
Flooding
idiocy.
continues in central and
With
eastern
age, there's
Canada,
arrogance.
with the situation on the ground changing by the minute.
The Democratic Party, well, no, there's
This is
corruption.
the scene in Bracebridge, Ontario, where a state of
Racism,
emergency has been declared.
stuff like that.
Severe floods destroyed
And
that
virtue
area.
signaling
in
that
Gatineau, Quebec,
to
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau visited troops and helped
claim
with
there isn't
sandbagging
racism.
efforts. Trudeau and
There
his wife
just
met
is.
with people at an evacuation center.
Oh, Trudeau's a
where the PM underscored a key government message.
When Trudeau's there to reassure you, you're in deep trouble.
With climate change, we're going to see more and more of these.
Fucking climate change. You know what they said? They said in the 90s and 80s, get rid of the DDT in the 80s, and we'll have no problem. We get the CFCs out of the way. There won't be a problem. They did that. There's still a problem. They say. China and India, and possibly Australia, certainly China and India, could just end their if they stop their problems. And granted, a lot of the problems would come from colonialism, from what took over, and then China decided communism was the way, and India decided to stick with caste systems and stuff like that. So now they're not off the hook because of colonialism, but they poison the earth more than anybody else. And if this is the stats they put out, this is the stats that the climate scientists are big on. This is the info there, and really, this is just China and India warming. If they clean up their act, there shouldn't be a problem. Of course, that's what they say. They say things like that. It could still be a problem no matter what you do. You know why? Because people they're doom merchants. They want to promote a market of doom. Like they try it with religious nuttery and doomsday cults and stuff like that, and say the world is ending, says the Bible, and blah blah blah. All that didn't work. The Mayan thing didn't work out, so now they're just doing it with environmental shit. There's no credibility here. And they say climate scientists, well, that doesn't mean anything. Climate's based on a bunch of various disciplines. And scientists don't usually walk out of those disciplines. They're usually very strictly one thing. They're very strictly honed in on a discipline. So if the climate scientists say it, that means everyone from a political scientist, which isn't really a science, it's not a science, or to an economist, which isn't really a science, to a bunch of other things, biology and so on, even stuff that doesn't necessarily have to be related, but they probably keep there just in case. That's how it works. I mean, it's a lot of bullshit. White coats are just trying to get more money to study something that's largely probably unquantifiable, really, especially in the various solutions.
Extreme weather events more regularly. It means we have to think about adaptation, mitigation, and
Trudeau's a brain-dead idiot, and his wife just squeezes his balls into her purse. And he said, "Sweet sings oh my balls are in a squeeze."
The joint report finds that personal information of 87 million users was disclosed for political purposes. More than 600,000 of those users are Canadian. The probe was prompted by a complaint saying Facebook let an outside organization use an app to access personal info by asking users to take a personality quiz. The report says it collected info of both the user and some of their Facebook friends. Canada's Privacy Commissioner says he's frustrated that Facebook is essentially thumbing its nose at their recommendations. Well, the trash talk is almost...
Oh my God, politicians are pissed off that Facebook is thumbing their nose at people who thought the iPhone was made by Motorola or something. I don't know. What was it? No, they don't know shit. These people show their ignorance to him and they say, oh yeah, he should really be listening to the recommendations. They're not technically literate enough to use a pencil, and he's supposed to listen to them. He being Zucker. None? Zucker? Yeah. Fuck, I can't remember his name. I just heard it too. Just use the term Facebook that showed him. Anyway, there's no reason why he should listen to congressional or Canadian political entities and stuff like that, because none of them know anything. They barely know how to type www. They're so daft and dinosaur-like. It's not even necessarily based on age, it's the fact they're out-of-touch politicians. They don't know crap. There's some older people who understand some things about it, not necessarily all of it. Politicians only know fear. They only know fear and abuse and manipulation and regulation and taxation and people in public companies the Facebook machine and so on. They like the idea of using regulations to keep people like groups like Gab and Minds and stuff out who aren't public yet. Public corporations, that's the reason why places like Facebook and Twitter are fucked up, because they're public businesses. And when Trump met Jack, instead of Trump should have just made it straight out. He should have just signed an executive order, forget about Congress, signed an executive order saying that the SEC has to do what the colleges do, and enforce free speech on all public companies. Okay, maybe it's not in law. He should at least propose a law then, if that's the case. But as far as I know, he's allowed to enforce the Constitution. He's allowed to enforce the Bill of Rights. I believe he could strike down any restriction on gun control too with a single pen, because there was already a Bill of Rights item on that. He could strike down any law that violates due process, anything that seems like illegal search and seizure, anything that offers any law that has high fines and awards in tort and criminal law. He can strike down anything that violates the 10th Amendment, states' rights. Like he could choose to decentralize social programs because the 10th Amendment says it's not the business of the state, the central state. As long as he's got a good constitutional argument behind it, he can do it. And he doesn't. He should. The colleges aren't the only thing. The colleges are not the only thing.
Over Canada working to end a garbage fight with the Philippines.
I think that there is a solution that can be found in the coming weeks. That's something that my department is working hard.
Oh yes, the green-loving, climate-conscious Liberal government in Canada is very happy to use the Philippines as their trash dump.
On across government with the government of the Philippines.
The Filipino president threatened war on Canada over dozens of containers of Canadian trash that are sitting in a Manila port. The dispute has been brewing for nearly 6 years after mislabeled containers
Well, Filipino-Canadian war, that should end pretty quickly. I don't think we
were shipped from
hate
here.
the Philippines.
There are reports that the garbage will be returned to Canada.
The leaders of Russia and North Korea have wrapped up their first ever summit. Russian President Vladimir Putin hosted North Korean leader Kim Jong-un for the historic talks, where the two pledged to boost their diplomatic ties.
Pretty thing.
It's become a symbol of North Korean diplomacy, that green armored train ferrying leader Kim Jong-un. The latest stop, Eastern Russia, for a summit with President Vladimir Putin. The leaders got chummy over champagne and caviar and exchanged gifts, each presenting the other with a sword. But talks quickly turned toward breaking the deadlock over nuclear
I wonder we should do a realm mental images
Putin
later.
said Kim agreed to give up his arsenal, but only if North Korea gets international security guarantees. For Putin, the first ever talks are seen as a way to elbow himself between Washington and Pyongyang. Analysts believe Kim is...
Fuck, I didn't know Putin was shorter than the North Korean guy. Yeah, those two guys have a lot of overcompensating to do, huh? Jesus.
Trying to rally
Any
Russian
web toes?
support to show North Korea has powerful allies after talks with President Trump failed in Vietnam earlier this year because of disputes over U.S. sanctions. Putin and Kim spoke in broad, sweeping terms about peace and stability on the Korean peninsula, but revealed few details. For the two leaders, success might not be measured by ink on paper, but rather how the summit is seen around the world. Ian Lee, CBS News.
Investigators in France are examining Notre Dame Cathedral for the first time since last week's devastating fire. Teams are entering the monument to take samples and search for a potential cause. Officials do believe the fire may have been sparked by a short circuit linked to renovation work. The cathedral is not expected to reopen to the public for several years. An important trip for Prince William in New Zealand today, visiting people impacted by the mass shootings in Christchurch.
Do I have a daughter? Yeah.
Wow, the use of monarchy actually got to Christchurch now. Jesus fucking Christ. You know, the Labour government's so fucking left, you'd think they'd at least get rid of those clowns. Before the guns, they've been freaking nutcases. Kiwis. How do they let that? Proportional representation is just such a stupid thing. It was bad. It makes things so much worse. And you got lots of mass censorship and lots of mass gun control attempts. They basically brought their guns out back. Love, take it, go ahead and take it type attitudes. But
Yeah, she's called Charlotte. What's his name? Charlotte. She's about the same age as you.
The Duke of Cambridge with 5-year-old Elena Sauki. She woke up from a coma just last week after getting injured in last month's mosque attacks. Prince William also visited first responders. 50 people were killed when a gunman opened fire at 2 mosques in March.
Vision loss affects 1.5 million Canadians. After the break, we find out about the medical breakthroughs changing the lives of the visually impaired.
Vision loss amongst Canadians, especially other blinders up during elections. Anybody challenge the damn signature rule so I don't have to do that. Petitioning. It's ridiculous. I can run a just pretty fine campaign. Shouldn't have to exhaust myself trying to get on the ballot too. That's what they want. They want people to be fucked up by the time they get on the ballot, if they even make the ballot rules. They want to limit the amount of choices we have, the choices I have. I'm apparently not allowed to have a choice unless I get all the signatures. What, 100 of them in a small constituency? Vancouver, I didn't like the 25 I had to get citywide. I think it'd be laziness, but maybe in a sense there's a lack of wanting to be in charge of people. I don't want to be in charge of anybody. I want to destroy that. I want to end that. I want to limit government. I want to shrink government. I don't want to be in charge of people. I don't want to be governing people. I want to be governing government and making it as small as possible so it can rarely be recognized as affordable. It's, in a sense, it's only protecting people's individual rights. It should be doing that. Individual rights. Should be doing that. But, federal cops, there shouldn't be federal cops anymore. There should be a federal policing of individual rights, arresting bad cops on the local level and stuff like that. And shit like that, making sure everyone's right to free speech is allowed and stuff like that, And it should be etched in stone. It should be a constitutional requirement. An absolute constitutional requirement. It's a travesty. But they take it upon themselves to do this. And, after I do make the ballot, after exhaustive measures, because no one decides to help, there might be a lot more active, liberty-loving, younger people, I don't know, that might love petitioning. Some people like petitioning. Some people aren't destroyed by it. I'm destroyed by the fact that I have to put in an effort to vote for who I want to vote for, which would be me. Not necessarily from a narcissistic point of view. If I could get another libertarian to do it, maybe I would. I'd still be petitioning for it because I have a right to vote for whoever I want. I should have a right to vote for whoever I want. I don't even get a write-in choice. And I don't think I don't think it's get a write-in choice. Okay, look at this, huh? This is the Z2 Play. See this? This battery got fat inside the Z2 Play Motorola, and it pushed this cover up. And the interesting thing is that the screen actually works. See? Look at that. The screen actually works. And everything works. Everything runs on it. It's just got these two wires connecting to the screen there. It's just freaking weird, huh? It's a little flat thing doing only visual processing. In a sense, it's a good thing. In a sense, it isn't a good thing because I could put this battery in this expensive phone that just goes, and I can't get any support for it because it's from the Cayman Islands. So the Cayman Islands. They're copping out to the Cayman Islands. I got nice little buttons here. Lots of buttons. Look at that. The 44 Magnum button. My friend from France sent me of all my places. So I was trying to goof around with loot crates, trying to find some jokes in loot crates. Got this alien pin, and then there's this Hungary pin. And on this side there's part of my libertarian values and bisexual pin right there. And here is, well, this one is an artwork of mine. I'm not sure how visual it is right now. But it's a pastel of mine called the Cafe Man. Hard to look down and see from. A lot of blacks and stuff. So probably better on a bigger scale. I like a lapel pin. Just brings out my eccentric dress, I guess. Yeah, so got no into difficult, no into shit in this world right now. A lot of good things happening. A lot of good, decent people out there trying to make things better. Like the creator of Gab and stuff like that. He's working so hard to make sure people have the right to free speech on the internet. I mean, he works better than the EFF does. He really puts his money where his mouth is. It's my money where his mouth is. So I'm a pro member. But it was a worthwhile cause, just like joining the Libertarian Party and stuff like that. Of Canada and of BC, US Libertarian Party. Join it. Support it. Try to convince Larry Sharpe to run for president with him. We need a better field of candidates in the US Party. We need a field of candidates in the Canadian Party. And Maxime Bernier, I don't trust the guy. He's like a slippery guy who grew up in like Trudeau, he was taught by Jesuits or something like that. He's well, he's got a lot of weird things. His party supports espionage and shit like that. And I don't care for that crap. He's very silent on police brutality. I mean, there's nothing I would be silent about. I mean, my knee reminds me of police brutality every day. Every day. My knee matters. There's just a lot of stuff that isn't individual rights related. The Libertarian Party isn't perfect either, but it's for a cry closer, and it's got people like me out there fighting for things like no taxation on individuals, which means working people would not pay taxes. Corporations and stuff probably would, in some form, but it wouldn't be aggressively either. I mean, it's still libertarianism, and we don't want to end up pricing people out of living either. Yeah, so, well, that's a important thing. Grandfather Leo Mespa over there, that's his painting back there. And beside it, and the one with more reds in it, that's my grandfather Lutzy, Laszlo Budai. He did that on a paper bag without an art grant. Both of them were done without art grants, oddly enough. Just like my work. So if you're going to go to my swag shop, consider that. I'm not supported by any government for artistic reasons and stuff like that. So, and I'm grossly injured. So, a lot of I had to scrape my balls to get a lot of my supplies and stuff like that. Family helps too. Family's wonderful. Family's great. Family is wonderful and great, and not in government. I'm not connected. And that's... So I wouldn't get an art grant even if I wanted one. And I don't want one. But that also keeps you out of the loop with things like galleries and stuff like that. So do consider it. I mean, you can get satirical stuff too, and I don't get any special grants for satire either, and so that, or comedy. Slave Master. Even Death Spank got a film grant, telefilm grant, which disappointed me. I kind of regret having spent money on Death Spank since then. I should have got on my tax return. But I would. But Slave Master is completely privately funded in production. Yeah, I know a lot of snobs about, the engine and stuff. The engine was useful for me. It did what I needed it to do. Some of the tiles in there were just fine for me. Important thing were the dirty drawings for the monsters and stuff like that, and also the blue humor and satire and around it and stuff like that. It's a lot more complicated than you could even let on. It's not all blue. It's not all thing. You still don't want kids to play it when they're not being watched and stuff. But yeah, fight censorship, and the best way to fight censorship is not just to look into speech and buy speech, but find a libertarian speech and fund their speech, and you could donate to, and if you like what you hear here and stuff like that. Perhaps I'll learn to get a little more interested and more motivated. More interesting, more motivated. I'm not a guy who really likes the limelight, oddly enough, especially as myself. Huge discomfort with that sort of thing, oddly enough. I'm more of a character person. That's why I try to put on the Black Jester thing, but it's mostly where the jokes come out of anyway. Staying straight without a joke at all is kind of impossible. Sort of weird. But, yeah. I find, anyway, there are links below and all that. Hit thumbs up, make comments. I don't delete any comment ever, unless it's, flooding, or if it's flooding, I'll have to ban, because flooding's wrong. There's no real speech there. It's just, someone hits one letter, enter in another letter, a single letter post that just squeeze out the actual conversation. That's not good. And don't sell products like Ray-Ban and shit like that, and the messages and stuff. And for God's sakes, don't post pedophilia. But, frankly, well, yeah. So they go after, that's an interesting point, with regard to child porn. They go after possession, like Townsend and stuff like that, Pete Townsend and stuff like that. Now, I can understand it may be a little disturbing to some people on certain levels that someone might have child porn on them. But we have to think about this. Some people do run their little personal investigations, and maybe they do report these things. Maybe more people, then you kind of get into a roadblock, because if you're going to tell cops that this happened, you're going to report that it happened. There aren't really good reporting devices anymore. I used to report sites that were a little fishy to certain things, and I've kind of lost touch with who to report those things to now. Like, it used to be like little forums you could just post anonymously, publicly. It doesn't seem like you can find those easily anymore. Maybe because Maps and No Maps fought for the right to not have their smut invaded or something. But yeah, here's the thing. If more people could actually brave themselves and find child porn and see it, not be in it, not distribute it, but just see it, that means they will be a witness to a crime. It means you increase the amount of possible witnesses to a real vicious crime, which is distribution, of exploitation of children. And who knows, maybe someone will see someone they knew. That'd be very disturbing too, no doubt. And that means they'll be a witness to who they saw doing it to somebody. And things like that. I mean, it would be much more important to have a good, solid eyewitness. And, yeah, and encourage them to... every police department should have a website with a form where you can just put the link in and send it. At the very least, it should be something like that. But we shouldn't be governing people's... we shouldn't be tracing people... presumptively, we shouldn't be tracing people's internet. Because there's no telling what... I mean, imagine if you got a hard-on for somebody in a police department and you decide to... if someone clicks the wrong link, they're porn-bombed or they're just in the wrong website. They can get in a lot of trouble just because somebody who decided to do an unwarranted violation of their privacy and discover that they did that they went there. They'd be in trouble for really no reason, aside from the fact they witnessed something they didn't necessarily expect to find. Now NAMBLA, you could probably just take them down, or all those no maps and maps, they're all confessing to a crime. I mean, minor attracted person, the no maps claim to be not involved with a minor. But really, I mean, sociopaths like that. They do not. Sociopaths do not, they don't, yeah, that if they haven't done it yet, they will do it. And these people are confessing, they're advocating for this disgusting thing. Now, I don't know a lot about free speech and stuff, but advocating for the abuse of a child. Now, I'm not talking spanking. That's not an abuse. If anyone sees something sexual in that's pretty disgusting. And maybe if you got a fetish for it, you may see things differently. But I mean, it's not making a fist and stuff. The belch is a bad thing because that's taking an arms against a kid. And you don't have to feel it. If you have to feel the impact of it, you're less likely to take it to extremes. With the belch, you won't feel the backlash too very much. The opposite and equal reaction. But anyway, if you're advocating sex with a child, you're advocating. You're basically planning to have a very lowly activity in your life. It's a confession. And I don't think we should censor their confession. We should encourage their confessions and then go after them. Why would someone be targeted because of a tweet he made to a woman that was hurtful, but not violent? Get away with it. And hell, if they want to say words are violence, what about these maps and no maps and NAMBLA people out there speaking out for violence against children? They're conspiring to molest children. That's basically it. And some of them, the maps and no maps, really go far into necrophilia and zoophilia. It's really weird. And maybe if it's deemed, maybe if some of them are pretenders, they'll stop pretending the moment it becomes considered a law. One thing you can do though is you can always find out the compulsive confessor, and they're usually obvious and they can be wormed out. But I don't think even a compulsive confessor wants to spend my level of jail time for someone like that. Pedophiles don't get to leave. That's the whole thing. Confessing to boinking or wanting to boink children, really, it's just the idea that no one ever goes at that. Yeah. Good rose hip. So, honey in there. So, yeah. And they should pedophiles, pattern killers, rapists of all kinds, and excitement firebugs, who create massive. If you see a massive full building fire caused by arson, that's called an excitement arsonist. And an excitement arsonist does things for sexual release. They're a sex criminal too. Now, don't let anyone tell you, well, it's probably Islam that burned this down or whatever. No, they don't engage in fires. That's the mass fire is a sexual thing. Revenge personalities and things like that tend to use more localized fires in their planning. Like they'll burn a bedroom. Stuff like that. Or the vandalism types probably just they'll burn a pattern, like they'll draw something out in gasoline and light it up and fire, that sort of thing. Because if you burn everything down, you don't exactly leave the message. Message crimes are way and far between. I know I'm kind of hitting into Notre Dame thing a little bit, but that's the sort of thing I don't want to get people to go crazy about this stuff, because and with these the decapitated Mary and the statues, that to me seems like someone who's very pissed off about this Pope Francis revival stuff. I'm not too thrilled with it either, but Protestants are the ones who really despise the Mary worship, as they call it. And anyone who would be motivated to destroy a Mary statue in any way, that would be a Protestant. Because the virgin birth is still revered by Islam. So, and in a way, we do have an understanding in some sense, because our people in Ireland have been falsely labeled terrorist as well. And that's how, of course, it's kind of smarter because they, leave the car before they blow it up. But it's, I love that joke. Yeah, I kind of wonder about that. I mean, if suicide bombing was that prevalent, we'd probably be, without them, they probably wouldn't be around much anymore. I mean, back to the privacy thing. The Supreme Court is allowing people to be monitored in their chats, just in case they're pedophiles. Now, I understand if you manage to actually get a date set up and they show up there to a place, then you get them, then you have some sort of connect, then you have proof they were interested and proof that they're, at that point you could possibly get a warrant and use that chat conversation. But the idea that you just use the chat documentation to show up at their door. I mean, anyone can talk shit. I used to pretend to pedophiles that I was a little girl, and that I'd meet them in certain spots, and I was across this country. It was a fun thing in IRC, fucking with pedophiles and stuff like that. But a lot of dirty shit gets talked about in IRC and other chats and stuff like that. And you can't go by that. You can't go by that. a lot of them don't go meeting people. If they go meeting people, sure, fine. I mean, they go meeting people, fine. If someone goes to meet them, I don't know about that, because that becomes a difficult thing. I mean, you probably shouldn't, probably should look to the problem that might be the parents too. I mean, if kids are going to meet people, like the spider in the situation, because there is a one situation where there is this more phobophilia, it's more phobophile, it's called pederast, that do not leave the house, or that do not go after, like, there's sort of my mentality with adult women, is that I think they should come and get me. First of all, in a legal sense, it makes much more sense, because no one's going to be yelling rape or something like that if they do all the steps to go there and sign my little agreement. Because in this day and age, this situation, I'm kind of a forever person. I say her because I'm more practical than just I'm gonna stick with the bi thing, fuck a guy, I don't know. I'm not gonna get kids out of that. I'm never gonna get kids out of that. I'm eventually gonna need a male spawn. And frankly, I don't think I'll get a male. I don't think I'm gonna get a kid from fucking another dude up the ass. I mean, it'd be nice to have a little slavish twink on his knees and. Anyway, my sperm will last quite some time. I'm only 40. I mean, I got hypospadias. I got lots of problems to deal with. I got lots of things on my mind, and there are a lot of lovely women out there, and I'm not going to bend over backwards and crawl on my knees and do everything for them, because I'm a dom. I'm not a submissive. I'm not going to beg them for dates and shit like that. It's ridiculous. And by the way, hypospadias does not render men infertile. It might take more tries for a man to impregnate a woman who's got hypospadias, but it will not make it impossible. So anyone who says, well, it makes them infertile, fuck at it. It makes you much more clinical about sex and stuff like that, which is how I discovered my own code. And that's what I need. My code is, they come to me if they want it, and then they agree to sort of contractual agreement and stuff like that. Voila. Things can happen, but it's not a affirmative consent type issue. It's just a matter of, well, a lot of private stuff. But I kind of have to be quite a little bit straight with certain things. A little bit straight. He or she would have to sign something and come to me and beg me, and fuck, I don't want to see balls either. Man would have to cut his balls off for me to be willing to do that. I got this weird thing that my balls should be the only balls. So it's a weird quirk in my mind. I'm uncomfortable talking about this, but I have a habit of saying things that I think, and it's very painful not to say things that I think. I shoot my mouth off all the time, and the fact that it's a matter of sometimes I just lose my train of thought too. Sometimes, but I'm a little bit of absent mind, I guess. What's it got to do, right? So, yeah, that's the story, I guess. That's the, I hope this camera is putting out some decent shit. I hope this way of doing it will actually, make the sound sync better than last time. I'm not sure. Oh, yes. Aww. You nice stinker. So, yeah. It's not a matter of narcissism or anything, it's just my thing. It's just that a lot of options out there, and I just can't. The only way to isolate and pick it is to see who's brave enough to come to me and say this is what they want straight out, no games. And I, in turn, will not play games and tell them exactly straight out what's going to happen from there on. And I'm really going to tell them everything. I mean, well, aside from the signing thing, that's completely willful. They have to do it of their own free will. They have to be involved with their own free will. I ain't forcing anyone to do that. Not going to do that, no. I know. I do voices sometimes, and just out of my way. I am the keeper. Oh no, Mario! Yeah, it's So yeah. I'm not going to talk about. So, yeah. So, Spawn is going to have a movie again. A better remake, I guess to say. It's a shame the guy who did Dr. Venture really should have been Twitch. I know maybe Renner will do a good job. It looks like a big challenge for him, given his history. I mean, he was in the Bourne movie no one liked. Be cool to see a Shadowhawk movie, but not the but before it becomes a Green Lantern thing. That I think that's first one go to the point where it's about to lift up its helmet and then continue on into a second movie, which is the second series where the Nazi character who idolizes him realizes his mistake. I mean, it's just so fucking good. I mean, really, it is awesome. Savage Dragon, it's a shame that that isn't movie bound right now and stuff like that. They probably could have done more with Hellblazer and Swamp Thing, you know, because they could have started the movie on the crossover. There's a lot of interesting things in that whole crossover between Hellblazer and Swamp Thing, where you see Batman swamp statues and stuff like that and shit like that. It's just like great. Some real interesting visuals will be involved there, and it's really cool. But I think the biggest mistake is when they don't call it Hellblazer, they call it Constantine, and they make it a title role issue and stuff like that. I think it's better to call it Hellblazer. It's a much better name. Yeah, so, should probably do a book of the day thing, because I'm surrounded with lots of good books and stuff. It's like, Thomas More. Thomas More is an interesting thing. The lonely voicing is the power of the state. It's a beautiful thing. It's, of course, he's a sinful Catholic who believes in free will, but, just Protestants like myself. This is a funny thing, you know, when I hear Protestants say they don't believe in free will, I'm thinking, well, if you don't believe in free will, how are you not a cult? Because the disbelief in free will is usually, believing free will is not cult-like. It's like that. I mean, it just seems ridiculous to me. Almost worrisome too. I mean, the idea. That's probably the big worry about Pence and stuff, is he does not come from a belief in free will, and that's stuff like that. Bill Clinton didn't come from a belief in free will. So, is it any surprise how things turn out? Obama, also, a belief that was not rooted in free will. I guess John Kennedy was the last one for that. Reagan wasn't a very religious guy, so it didn't really matter that much. And he seemed to have sympathies towards the Catholics anyway. It's kind of funny that my religion kind of attracted me towards the secularism and libertarian point of view, oddly enough, because of the free will factor. And secular, by the way, is misunderstood. Secular means that you have no government state. You have no state religion. That's right. Secular means you have no state religion, including statism. And what we have is a series of theocracies and stuff like that. And that's a huge problem. And it's an aversion to free will and stuff like that. The Jesuits were created on the premise of opposing free will, oddly enough, too, which is strange. And they're created by a French monarch. They became a huge problem because they were society creepers and stuff like that, which is why they were originally removed. And yeah, but secularism doesn't mean a state without any religions in the culture. It just means that religions have no political authority, and that's what people don't understand. And that's largely what some religions do believe highly in having political authority, and some sects do, like Jesuits. There was one congressman who was a Jesuit, and I think before they were, no, that was after they were reinterjected. I don't even know how that was legal. It violated the Constitution wholeheartedly. I think Nixon would have had him removed because of that. Because Nixon didn't have much. Well, the Democrats couldn't really change it. There are a lot of preachers too, like Baptist preachers and shit like that, who end up running for office and stuff like that. And a lot of Vancouver City Council has a female preacher who's also very woke, according to her, and she's an orange Irish preacher, which makes her one of the oppressors too, a woke oppressor. And she's very unintersectional. But as far as her, she's woman. That's about it. That's the only. And there's no intersecting thing. She's just woman. If she were Catholic, then the Irish part might have actually kind of given her extra points. But no, she's a Protestant preacher, and she sits in Vancouver City Council, which means that she's probably even extra happy to oppress people like me. On her own theocratic point of view. And I don't know why the left even tolerates that. That's probably neoliberalism. They're all for this. They're for the tactics of the moral majority. They put in politicians like the moral majority in the form of theocracy. And they support theocratic systems like Israel. It's kind of weird. Religious states, it's just not a good thing. Religious clergy of any kind should not be in public office. They shouldn't even be allowed to vote. Just attend to your fucking flock, do the charitable work, stuff like that, you know. But you know, I don't care if they're Hasidic, Orthodox Jews, or the Islamic imams, or Catholic priests, or Protestant ministers. None of them belong in public office. And I'll leave it at that. Alright, have a nice day, and I'll try to do more at some point later. It might be easier, maybe this camera might make things harder, I don't know. I'll have to figure out. Maybe I need a better... I'm using the basic software for this thing, so we'll probably should be using something with better frame rates or something. We'll see. I'll actually look at this later. But I'll still upload it. For better things to come. If I have more funding, if I have more backing and, you know, donors and stuff like that, we'll definitely have to keep things going up and up and up. My hosting's coming up soon, so spending is going to have to decrease, especially with some of my recreational mental health care, I guess you can call it. Recreation's very good for the sanity, especially in my situation. But it's just moderate stuff anyway. But it's still on a card. But my bank account's likely not to get cancelled ever because I'll always have a debt. And I think debts are why people actually lose their bank accounts in the free speech market, you know, in the piss people off area. Because it's when people piss people off and the banks don't need them, they're going to lose their bank accounts. And debts keep you necessary to a bank, to whole infrastructure of banks. So even though I'm just guessing, I don't. So I'm just guessing. You go is try to ask. I find it uncomfortable to ask people about their finances. I don't like to share my finances either, or where it comes from and stuff like that. I think it's private. It's an old-fashioned thing, I know. It's a very old-fashioned thing, but it's a good thing. It encourages certain politeness in society and stuff like that. I don't know. I don't like to ask, you know. I like to infer sometimes a trust fund baby and stuff like that, but I don't think they should have to confirm right or wrong. They can always be secure in who they are and say whatever and stuff like that. No? You can say anything about me. I go whatever. Call me racist, pervert, whatever. Whatever. Call me a half fag, whatever. You know. But yeah, it doesn't matter. Say what you're gonna say. It's your right, man. Peace out.